Okay, so today we're going to talk about activating your nuts and seeds. Now, this is one of the most important steps in the preparation process of raw food. I like to make things really efficient. I'm very organized, so I like to activate big batches of nuts and seeds so that I have them ready to go and ready to use in recipes. Now, if you're brand new to raw food and you're unsure what phytic acid is, we're going to be neutralizing and removing phytic acid. That means activating the nuts and seeds. So removing the phytic acid will just help the nuts and seeds digest better, but also phytic acid is a nutrient inhibitor. So it binds to minerals in the body and then you're unable to absorb them. Now, there's been a lot of studies done on phytic acid, and there's a huge debate in the raw food community on whether phytic acid is good for you. I've actually seen some recent studies on where phytic acid is actually an anti-cancer nutrient. There's so much information all over the place. So to me, the main reason why I soak my nuts and seeds is to remove the dirt and debris, because they are really dirty when you receive them, and I buy them in bulk. Now, as you can see, my almonds have been soaking overnight and the water is very murky and full of color. So I want to make sure that I'm cleaning them properly. Not only does soaking clean them, but it also, once you dehydrate them, they become crunchier and a lot tastier. Totally up to you. You can use the nuts and seeds raw just as is. You don't have to soak them if you don't want to, if you feel like you don't need to. But I like to, again, just to rinse and clean them off. And as you can see, this water is pretty dirty and murky after these have been soaking overnight for about, they've been soaking for about 12 hours. Now, all nuts and seeds have different soaking times. Now, these are just the minimum soaking times in the chart that I've given you. They're the recommended minimum time that it takes for the phytic acid to be neutralized. But that's just the minimum time. So you can soak these just all at once overnight, which is what I do. I don't pay attention to the times. Almonds take the longest. The almonds need a minimum of 8 hours. So I just soak everything separately in bowls overnight. So I just remind myself to do that before I go to bed, and in the morning I'm going to drain them, rinse them, and dehydrate them so they'll dehydrate till tomorrow morning. So you'll see here that I have almonds, walnuts, and sunflower seeds. I just chose these three just as the demonstration to show you, but I'll usually do pumpkin seeds and pecans as well. Now there's some nuts that actually don't need to be soaked, that don't have the phytic acid content or have very minimal phytic acid content, and those are macadamia nuts and hazelnuts and Brazil nuts. But if you are using them in recipes, such as dehydrated recipes, you do want to soak them, or if you're going to be using them to blend, you want to soak them to soften them. And you don't see cashews here because cashews are actually not 100% raw because they've been steam treated to remove a resin, the same kind of resin that's on poison ivy, which is very toxic, and it's around the shell. So they have to actually heat cashews in order for them to remove the shells without getting exposed to that toxic substance. So cashews just need to be soaked to soften them for blending. And you'll notice on the soaking chart that cashews need 2 hours soaking time. And you don't want to do any more than that because they do get really soft and they do absorb a lot of water. So if you soak cashews overnight and then you use them for a recipe and you notice that the recipe has too much liquid in it or it doesn't set properly, that is why you have soaked your cashews for too long. So that's a really important note because I get that a lot of time from the students. So cashews, very minimum soaking time. You can soak them right before you start a recipe. So I like to soak my nuts and seeds in bowls. You can do them in mason jars. You can do them in stainless steel bowls, whatever works for you. I like to do them in bowls because I do huge quantities and you need to add a lot of water because the nuts and seeds are going to expand. Almonds go almost double the size of when they are dehydrated. So you'll see here they actually look really puffy. So another important note is these are European almonds. So almonds that you get from the States or in California, by law, they have to be steam treated because way back when there was a huge E. coli breakout with almonds, and then so they came out with the law in order for that to not happen again, that they have to steam treat almonds. So when you go online, and I have a huge sourcing list for that on my website, when you go online and go to the bulk suppliers, make sure you get the European almonds, and it will state that. It'll tell you where the almonds come from. And then once they are soaked, they get puffy, and then you'll know that these ones are actually raw. Now they have been activated. Okay, so I've gone ahead and rinsed my almonds. So I like to just rinse them in a strainer, and then I'll just put them over a bowl like this just to catch the water. So you want to make sure that you have rinsed them really well. And as you can see, they look nice and clean. They're activated. They are now puffy as well. That's how you can tell that they have been soaked long enough. So now what I'm going to do, I just want to make sure I get out the rest of the water here. And then I'm just going to add them to a lined dehydrator tray. So you want to make sure that you add these onto a lined tray, not onto a mesh tray, because otherwise you're going to get some water dripping to the other trays in the dehydrator. So just make sure you put it on a liner. Now the airflow, because this is not one continuous batter, the airflow is going to get underneath those almonds, so everything is going to dehydrate properly, so it doesn't matter if you use a liner or not. Using a liner just will protect the tray as well. So I'm just going to add these in the dehydrator. You want to dehydrate them at 115 Fahrenheit for 18 to 24 hours. Almonds need about 18 to 24 hours to fully dry because they do hold a lot of water. So I'll just dehydrate everything at once. So I'm going to pop these in the dehydrator and I'll be right back. Okay, so I just rinsed off the rest of the nuts and seeds. I've added them all in the dehydrator. So they're going to dehydrate now for about 24 hours until they're fully dry. Once they are dry, then you can store them either at room temperature or in the freezer. Now, I prefer to store them in the freezer just because I don't have room anywhere else, but also I know then they're gonna last a really long time. Nuts and seeds that are stored in the freezer will last up to 1 year. So then once you have your dehydrated nuts and seeds, they're gonna be all ready to go. Now, just keep in mind, there are some recipes that you need them to be soaked and used wet for recipes, so just keep that in mind. In that case, you will have to remember to soak them and just do that organization ahead of time. But if you have a big batch of your dehydrated nuts and seeds, you have them all ready to go and use in dessert crust, use them for nut milks. You can use them right away for nut milks because they don't have to be wet for that, and use them for other recipes. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helps you with your preparation and organization in your kitchen.